What's up, guys? It's your boy Apollo, your favorite track boy. We are back here in Ride 5 career mode, this time with the Aprilia chapter. Now, first things first, I have to address, I loved riding this bike around the track. It gave me some problems at first, but it wasn't anything that fixing some electronic controls didn't help. Coming out of the gate in this track, the first corner was a little bit rough, and I did end up having to lower the difficulty from 70 to about 63. And the reason I say that is every time going out of the gate, I could not get a launch that would allow me to get anything less than, I want to say, probably 7th place. I ran through the race a couple of times, and it was almost impossible for me at my current skill level within the game to get a decent podium. So I did lower that, and then I did raise it for the next couple of races. On top of that, I did change the controls, or electronics I should say, on the Aprilia. I added the traction control to, I believe, a 2 and the anti-wheelie to a 1. Going around some of the corners, I would take them and the bike would just slide out right from underneath me. And when I raised that traction control, it was able to combat that. And then going down some straights or coming out of a corner, I would have the front wheel kick up a little too much for my liking. So I did go ahead and raise the anti-wheelie by 1. And that is everything that I did electronics-wise to the bike. In terms of modifications, I did the engine and transmission map 1. I put an aftermarket exhaust on, and I could not do slicks. And I don't know what it is about the slicks, but they add too much rating to the bike to be able to use them in a race. And I think that was also some of the problem that I was getting in terms of sliding. So I went ahead and I upgraded the wheels, or tires I should say, to a different brand, but they are still road/track tires. You can see that I end up grabbing 2 penalties on the last lap here, and I was a little nervous at first because you can see that my gap does shorten with Charles Nolan coming up quickly, but spoiler alert, I was able to grab the first place finish. Overall, I thought this was a really fun track to play through, and it's got a bunch of those really nice wide turns. This one was a problem maker, but then this track did something that I really liked, and you can see just at the end there that they turned the lights on overhead, which I thought was a really cool aspect. And you can see it even more during this track. It'll happen again, and I loved it. It was a really cool detail that they threw in that I wasn't expecting. I was first playing through on this track, and that happened, and it like spiked my game, and I wasn't expecting it, and I ran right off the track. But I went back and we were able to get the podium here. Now with this track, I did raise the difficulty back up to 70, and it was a little bit of a battle. It wasn't as bad as the next race that we do, solely because the next race, it has some very tough corners that I'll get into a little bit. But this corner in particular, on my first, I want to say 2 runs of the track that I did, I ended up going very wide. And then coming up on the last corner here, I had some problems where I had to modify the traction control just a little bit to not have me slide out. But I noticed with the Aprilia, overall, you can be really hard on the brakes, and you're not going to pull a stop. Excuse me. You're not going to pull a stoppie, and it's going to do exactly what you want it to do. Anywhere I put my joystick on this controller, for the most part, this bike went. It went everywhere I told it to go, and it did everything that I told it to do. And for that reason, I really enjoyed riding through this section in the Aprilia. I believe it's the next lap here that you're going to see these lights kick on, and it just looks phenomenal. It was really cool to see. But overall, this was a really fun track. I did notice as well that going through it, coming up on the last turn right here, I believe, this is actually the track that you run through the tutorial in. which I thought was kind of cool because it took me a second to grasp, and I didn't envision that I would be playing through the tutorial track in an actual race. I guess I should have, but I didn't. Now going into the last lap, I did have a pretty decent gap, and I do believe I keep the gap, and it made me want to raise the difficulty a little bit, but I didn't do that solely because I didn't want to put myself in a spot to where things were getting really, really difficult, and it was almost too hard for me to go through. I really like the spot that the difficulty is in right now. I believe you'll see that this gap closes pretty quick, and I think I almost end up losing the race. And right here you can see how I mentioned they turn the lights on and everything, and I thought that was a really cool feature. I know I keep talking about it, but it was really cool to me that they programmed something like that. I wouldn't have thought that, you know, they would do something like that. And as you can see in the top left, I mentioned my gap closed quite a bit because I'm not the best. So I do think I'm gonna keep the difficulty where it's at for the time being. So as we finish up this race and we go into the next one, there is a couple key points that I want to mention, and it took me for a run for my money. This track was really, really difficult for a couple reasons. I believe I lowered the difficulty from 70 to about 65, 68, somewhere between there. And the reason being is coming up on the first turn here, I couldn't get a good enough launch to get the podium, or not the podium, but the positioning that I had wanted to take the rest of the race. But this turn right here, let me tell you, this turn is horrendous. It is awful. If you don't take it just right, you high side, you slide down that little bit of a hill, or you get through those two quick turns, and then you hit that last one really quick and sharp, and you slide. But I do think that it was a really cool track design, going up a hill with a turn and then immediately into a down spiral, I guess you would call it, which I thought was really, really cool. Coming up on the last turn, I believe, this one, you can see I kind of struggled a little bit. It goes wide, and I didn't think that it was going wide, so it took me a second to kind of have that click in my head, but I was able to correct that moving forward, luckily. And spoiler alert, again, you know, I do get the first place podium finish. Now that I was in first, though, I was trying to kind of take my time to get used to more following the race lines that it was telling me to, and trying to kind of gauge by myself and not use them as much to try to learn the racing lines other people might take, I guess you would say. You can see that I did a lot better turn 3 or 4, I guess, than I did the first time. It definitely took me a couple of attempts off camera to do. I try to get everything on video just in case, you know, I do get a first try or something like that. If you guys do want to see my previous attempts, or, you know, a little compilation of when I wreck while recording, let me know in the comments below, and I will try to throw some clips in for each race from where I wreck. But I try to use that time to really get a layout of the track and learn acceleration points, braking points, turn radiuses, things like that, to try to make it look a little better on camera. Now, that doesn't go to say if I place second in a race that I won't put it on camera just because I didn't get first place. I believe there was actually an episode that I had posted a little bit back where I actually didn't get first place, and then I had to go back because I didn't have enough points on the leaderboard to unlock the next category. But I try my best to get the best lap possible within the race, so I'll restart if I wipe out or something like that, or if I get 10th, I'll restart. But if that's something that you guys do want to see, let me know, and I will put like clips here and there for each race of spots that I wreck, or when I finish, you know, way back in the line. Coming up on the final turn here, I was a little nervous with how close this gap was that I wasn't gonna make it, but luckily I was able to extend that gap just enough. And you can see right around this corner, I tried to do a little better with that turn because it makes you think that it's gonna turn sharp and then it kind of widens out, which was a little bit annoying, but I also thought it was kind of cool. Going into the final event here, this is a time attack that I am not posting all of my attempts on because luckily this one only took me, I want to say 2 or 3 attempts. And I've noticed that with time attacks, I don't know why exactly, but it seems that playing in this third-person view helps me a lot more to get the best time I can. And I don't like playing races that way, just because I like to feel immersed within the race itself. But time attacks, I feel, are a little bit different because you need a specific time to get, you know, whatever it may be, the points, the bike, or whatever it is. This track, though, I really enjoyed. I thought that the scenery was beautiful. You can kind of see like houses and stuff in the area, and normally I feel that you don't see things like that. You just see the track. So I thought it was cool to be able to see like the nature around it. I don't want to say community, but maybe the community that's around the track. And it had some really fun areas. This turn was, no, not this turn, I'm sorry. This turn did throw me a little bit of problems, but it's this turn right here. I would come up on the hill and I would go to make the turn, and because it's kind of going uphill and you have to brake and then turn almost while you're braking, I was having slide out problems, so I had to put the traction control up to a 3 for the time attack here, I believe. I may be a little wrong, I'm not too sure. There is a little bit of a gap between recording the gameplay and doing the voiceover. I do have a new job, so that's been taking most of my attention and time lately. However, I'm still going to attempt to try to get a video out once a week. Hopefully, if not, I will have one out once every, I want to say like 10 days or so. They're not long videos, it's just having the time to be able to do that. But if you guys did enjoy the video and the content, let me know in the description down below, or not the description, the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one.